Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to remove that for right now. I'll wait till people show up. This is Joel. I'm back after a couple of weeks. Had a little trip last week up to Crater Lake, Oregon, and various parts therein. A lot of driving. But I'm back and waiting for Michael to stop talking so everybody can come in to the chat. What I wanted to talk about this week was continue. A couple weeks ago, I started a series and I was going to continue it the next week, but got sidetracked by a couple of things on the Gen Z. And actually, it's now people are saying millennial and Gen Z, young people coming back to the church in a reversal of what everyone thought would never be reversed. You've always heard, actually, all my life, I've heard that young people are always moving away from the faith of their parents. And it was supposedly an irreversible trend. There was the rise of the nuns, not being N-U-N-S, but N-O-N-E-S, no religious affiliation. And that was going to be the future. But that seems to have turned around now. And Lucas is here. Lucas got in before Carrie. Carrie, that's, he's beat you a couple times. So, Lucas, super dad, driving his kids to school and yet still joining us. And good morning. Morning, Carrie. Always good to see you guys. So, as I was saying, we're going to continue talk about the rise in Christianity, and specifically Christianity. A few years back, it was always a rise in spirituality, but not, people. And that has to do with the nuns, I think. They didn't want to put any kind of label on their spirituality. So it was just this kind of vague, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious kind of thing. And that creeped into the church a lot too. We're not religious. We just love Jesus. Kind of this nebulous, we just love Jesus. Not sure what that meant. But Chantel, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, but now there's a label being put on it, and I wanted to show you this. This is from CBN. I'm going to add it here to the stage and play it for you. And let's go.
From Barna shows a shocking resurgence in church attendance among millennials and Gen Z. Now, the statistics are wildly encouraging. So to help us break it down, I'm joined by CBN's Billy Hollowell. Billy, what do these statistics say?
I mean, it's kind of wild. The statistics are telling us something that we've had reverberations of. We've sort of had a lot of conversation about young people becoming more faithful, coming back to faith. We have a new film at CBN, Revival Generation, that shows what's been happening on college campuses. But these numbers solidify that it's not just young people saying, hey, I'm more interested in God. For the first time in decades, we're seeing that Gen Z and millennials are now the most regular churchgoers. So that means that young people who for a long time were dismissed as being not devout, not caring about faith, confused, lost, they are more likely than the general church, Christian American to be going to church regularly. They're surpassing older generations, and those older generations have traditionally been the ones that have higher church attendance. So it's like this inversion right now, and young people are flocking towards the truth.
Okay, so that's a very good summary. Actually, this is a very good video that I found from CBN, and I'm going to play a little bit later because the other guy, the younger guy in the thing, really, really nails what the issue really is and what really is causing this and what our reaction should be. And Carrie, you shouldn't be religious. You should have a relationship with God. You know what, Carrie? I'm gonna push back a little bit on that because that's kind of been the mantra for as long as since I was in my 20s, I'd say, so the past 40 years. And the whole thing of a personal relationship with God is it's kind of a new concept historically in Christianity. And it's true. It is true. In kind of the spirit of it is true. But what that translates into is just kind of it puts you and God on equal terms to a lot of people. A lot of people see it that way. I've never used that term myself. And I don't really have a problem with people that do, because basically it is true. But Jesus actually was a very religious person. He was a very observant Jew. He observed all the commandments and all the rituals of the legitimate rituals of the Jewish faith. So, and yes, there is a big difference between people who go through the motions and put on a front and don't live that life. It's easy to do that. But it's interesting because a couple of weeks ago, I did a video on part one of this was the return to Catholicism, which is a very liturgy-based religion. Catholicism is kind of the definition of religion. Being religious is going to church and doing all those rituals. And there's a huge surge, especially of young men, towards Catholicism. So let me see. What do you say, Kara? Thanks, Lucas. I wondered about the pushback on that. I guess Joel will let me know. Joel, I was taught that by a church deacon. I was taught it too, Carrie. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not really, don't mean to really hammer you with it. But that's something that's been a popular, it's been really the way to define Christianity over the last 30 to 40 years. And you won't really find it in the Bible in those kind of words. And like I said, the spirit of it is true. Our rituals and, just doing certain things does not save you. Okay. And there's a difference between salvation on this. And there's always a difference between in defining this kind of thing. You have to make a distinction between what saves you and brings you into salvation versus what pleases God when you come into that relationship with him. But I think that right there is part of the thing that I think a lot of young people are finding doesn't quite resonate, especially young men. And that's always a friend of mine, Dave Murrow, who wrote the book, Why Men Hate Going to Church. He's really one of the few people that in the past 20, 30 years has been tackling the issue of why young men weren't going to church, or why men in general weren't going to church. And it's part of this idea that when you define your faith like that, a personal relationship, men aren't strong on relationships. And that's university. Ask any wife, any girlfriend, whatever, ask any guy. My wife is so much better at relationships than I am, because men we're not wired to have the to have relationships be as easy and as open, as instant as women do. So that phrase right there, although it is legitimate if you look at it, the meaning of it, but the way it's presented is, I have to be good at relationships to be a Christian. And it almost has the connotation of God and I are on the same level, a personal relationship. I always like to say a right relationship with God. Christianity is a right relationship. And that means I have to be I have to see my relationship with God in the right, through the right lens, or in the right way, or we are not here. God is here and I am way down here. And it's only by his grace and his mercy that I even have access to him, and even have something that I would call a relationship. So, and it's kind of a nitpick, and sorry, Carrie, I don't mean to nitpick on you like that, but that phrase right there is one of the things that I think has, in a way, it represents the kind of presentation of Christianity that has silently driven men away. And it actually and this goes right into what I was talking about, evangelicalism. It's mislabeled a little bit. I think the thumbnail said evangelism, but I really want to talk about evangelicalism, which is probably just a computer word correction error. But it's funny. My wife and I were talking about. We were driving from our vacation the other day. And she was talking about our daughter, who is goes on Wednesday nights to the youth group at our old church, the church I've been telling you about that kind of lost its way. And she goes and she is a group leader for these young girls. And she only goes there because this is the place where you can mentor young girls. This church is still huge, and it still has it's got a gigantic youth department. And if you want to minister to young people, you need to go to that church. Even though theology is getting more and more errant, but they still are Christian, and you still have that avenue. But she was saying, she was telling my wife that she had never seen such disrespect among the young boys, the ninth grade boys, towards the worship. And that's a soapbox on mine that you probably heard me say. We are defining worship these days by singing. And if you noticed on that video, the opening scenes of that video, and I might want to show it again here. I'll go back to the beginning of this video and show you.
Brand new research from Barna shows a shocking resurgence in church attendance among millennials and Gen Z.
So what do you see here? Let's see. I don't know if I'm coming through when this is like this, but if you notice, the imagery on that is young women singing with their hands raised and moving to the motion and kind of being like in a worship high. This is how this is ideal for women to have this setting where you have a musical definition of worship, where you get into an emotional state and, connect with the music, connect with the people, singing the way it's very well known in Christian music these days. The chords you use and the progressions you use can really manipulate your audience into the emotion that you want them to have. And and at one point, my friend Dave Murrow said that could be that image there of those young women with their hands raised, getting into that kind of worship trance almost, could be the symbol of Christianity, the new symbol of Christianity. And I'm sorry, it won't necessarily anger men. It won't, they won't speak up, but they're just, whether subconsciously or consciously, they'll just say, that's not for me. That's not the way I relate to God. That's not the way I worship. It's not the way I worship. Honestly. And my wife and I talk about this all the time. And it's one of the things that she said that our daughter was saying, the boys were very disrespectful towards this kind of worship. And my wife explained to her that, well, those boys are not in touch with their feelings. They're ninth grade boys. You put that in front of a ninth grade boy, and he's like, I don't even know what that is. That doesn't connect with me at all. And the church itself will not see that. They'll see those boys as a problem. And those boys, we don't know what to do with them. They won't see that their presentation of worship is the problem. And hey, this is not reaching our boys. So what can we do different to reach our boys? They won't ever do that. So that to me is why I think, and I have no research to back this up, but in my reaction to this is that's why I think young men especially are connecting with Catholicism, because they can go into Catholicism and be in a setting that's predictable to them. And those rituals actually speak to them because it's a tradition. It's something their fathers had and their grandfathers had. It more connects to something stable. Put them, give them music that manipulates them into an emotional state. That a lot of men, that doesn't work for them. That's not how we're wired. And as much as society tries to beat that out of us or rewire that, this is one thing that the guy was saying, the progressive politics and the progressive going of society into this, all the uncertainties of society, all the messages our society has given to young men saying, you know, you're toxic. We don't want you. That has, I think, is part of the reason, if not a big reason, why young men are going to Catholicism. Now I think they are going to church, to more evangelical Protestant churches, say Protestantism. And really, when you say Protestant right now, you're talking about evangelical or maybe Reformed. Let's see. Okay. If you love the world's way, it makes you an enemy of God. And you know, this is what this is going to come up in the video that I want to show you, that the younger guy said. That's really good, but I want to look at some of your comments now. What is Acts 2:38? If you could put that up line straight, that'd be great. Yeah. Jesus Christ is not a religion. He is a way of life. He's not an empty religion. He's not a religion that relies on rituals to save. But again, Jesus was a very religious Jew. So covers it too, right? In your mind. Carrying your mind, yeah. And that's fine. I mean, that's, like I said, this is how I was raised. So let's see. Life is created that raised men to be tough, strong, cool. I don't think church teaches they can be both. They used to raise men to be tough, strong, and cool. They don't anymore. So I think most men actually have been kind of raised absent any really direction or definition of what it means to be a man, because they've been told that their natural masculine tendencies are toxic, you know, and they need to somehow purge themselves of that, or they need to just go away, just stay in your computer games, whatever. So we don't teach that anymore. Okay. Acts 2:38, repent and be baptized in the name of Jesus Christ. Okay, there you go. Good. Blanchard, I'm glad you got that up, because I want to play this second part of this, and I'm going to try and bring it up here. I'm really not the best at these kind of things, but so I'm going to show you what this, now to, it's gone to a commercial there, but I'm going to skip that and pause that there. Okay. And I want to, right. Okay. Sorry about that. This is me trying to do this. I'm going to play what this guy said, because this is really good right here. Oh, hold on.
Inundated with dopamine on Instagram. It was like going to this rock concert and you know, celebrity pastors. But what I think is really encouraging is that young people are like, listen, I am so inundated with dopamine on Instagram and just a constant stream, like, hit me with the truth. And actually, God brought me to James 4. I think this is what's happening. It says, come near to God and he will come near to you. Like, yeah. No sugarcoating. Wash your, and then it's like, all right, well, like, just give it to me. Just what's the Bible say? It's like, all right, wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Like, I feel like this is like a James moment where James kind of like smacks people across the face. It's like a little harsh. I feel like that's what people want. They're like, what does it say? What is truth? Tell me where to look. I like, what do you have to offer? Like, stop with the like filtration system. Like, just give it to me. What is the gospel? And when you allow the Bible to speak for itself, it is alive. It is active. It is sharper than any two-edged sword, and it pierces you, man. And so I think when I go to church now, I'm seeing a renewal of let's worry less about our relevance and more about are we allowing are we comfortable enough to allow the Bible to convict someone? Are we comfortable enough letting the Bible speak for itself? And I feel like there is this after this whole deconstruction phase where it's like, what is church? Am I just going to some like kind of performance? Where now that destruction wave has kind of gone down. Now it's like reconstructing. But hold on, what is truth?
Okay, and that he goes on. That right there, to me, is gold, and especially what he said at the end. Are we comfortable enough to let the Bible speak to someone and convict them? Let's see. Let me see what we got in here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Carrie, we used to be raised that way. Yeah. Let's see. Peter did not say, come down to the altar and let Jesus into your heart as your personal savior. Peter did not say that? Okay. Yeah. So let's see. Let's see. All right. So I kind of lost a comment that I wanted to show. So what he said, he was talking about the relevance, how right before that, when he mentioned celebrity pastors, he was talking about how kind of what the millennials, his millennial group kind of did about 20, 25 years ago when the emerging church started. And this is where most of this started. And people are forgetting this. About 25 years ago, there was a movement called the emerging church, and then split into the emergent church, one of them went sideways, but it was this relevance, making church relevant. A lot of the guys that started it were like, why does church have to stink? All this. I was so bored in church. We need church to be more relevant to young people. And that wave is kind of petering out now. And because he mentioned, we try to be so relevant that we put on these shows, laser light shows, smoke, screens or whatever. And everything had to be video screens. Everything had to be a performance. And when you go to a lot of evangelical churches today, it is a performance, and that is a very entertaining thing. And a lot of people really like it. It does draw a lot of people. So I think that's why evangelicalism is kind of holding its own right now. But we're kind of losing. We're on the verge of losing some people, especially young men. A lot of the young men that we attract with that kind of imagery that they had at the beginning of the video, where it's a woman, young women, young attractive women, kind of in that rocking worship kind of trance they get in. There are some men that will go along with that and that registers them, but there's a lot of men that come on and quite honestly, they're on the make. And there's a lot of Christian musicians that can get into manipulating attractive young women to do that. And it leads to things that are really messy in the church. And I've seen it a lot. Young men increasingly, I think, are seeing that's not really who I am to the core. That's not what my masculinity responds to. They want truth. And that's the key. What is the truth? And there's been in evangelicalism, there's been this phony, ginned up conflict between truth and love. And somehow you can't be loving if you speak the truth. And you can't be relevant if you speak biblical truth. And it has led a lot of people like Andy Stanley and a lot of these other movements to unhitch themselves from the Old Testament or unhitch themselves into this idea of absolute truth, because in today's age, that just doesn't sell to young people. And what that younger guy said in the video is very true. He goes, are we comfortable enough to let the Bible convict people? And I would add to that, are we comfortable enough to offend people and offend these young people? Because not everybody that comes is going to respond to the truth. Many are called, few are chosen. Okay. It's a very narrow way. And are we comfortable enough in our faith to let the word of God not only speak to people and convict people of their sin and bring them to Christ? Are we willing to let it offend some people and drive some people away? Because that's what it's going to do. If we're really speaking the truth, Jesus said, because you're mine, people will hate you. They'll say all kinds of evil against you, but don't worry about it because you're mine. They're not saying it about you. They're really saying it about me. So are we comfortable enough in our faith to do it? Lucas, what do you got here? Church is a group of people led by elders that meet, eat food together, raise cups, sing songs. Somewhere it changed. One person leading the ritual is not what the body of Christ was supposed to be. Boy, that is right. And another point my friend made that it's a little kind of a rabbit hole, but how we the leading of worship changed from the clergy to the musicians. And so I always talk to my pastor about don't leave the introverts behind, okay? Because we're not all artistic, we're not all musical, we're not all expressive, right? But those are the people that dominate church life today. So I told my boss once that the truth hurts. How did he take it? Is it your ex-boss or is he still your boss? Because truth does hurt. Yes. Okay, blind straight. Narrow is the way and straight is the gate. And that's what we believe. Do we believe this stuff or not? So that's the challenge of evangelicalism. Catholicism is a very ritualistic, liturgical faith, and young men are starting to run to it. And if we just offer them a rock concert with smoke and laser lights, if we offer them is a party, they're not going to respond to it. My wife was telling me a friend of hers from Bible Study Fellowship. Her daughter married a guy, and that guy is leading them to the Catholic Church. He's Catholic, and this mom is very distressed about it. But it speaks. I can see how Catholicism. My whole family's on my dad's side is Catholic, and I'm not Catholic. There's too many things in the Catholic Church I can't agree with, but it offers a stability and a stable base that men can operate from. And I can see it now. Hopefully, one of the weaknesses of Catholicism, it doesn't offer much accountability. And hopefully that's not why men are attracted to it. You're never going to get pressed by anyone about your porn addiction or, your whatever life you're leading, your gambling, whatever it is. So I'm hoping that's not why men are attracted to Catholicism, because one of the things about evangelicalism, and when it gets back to what Carrie was saying, it really is a personal relationship. It is your personal accountability to God. It's not through the priest. It's not through anybody else. So we have to find a way to appeal to young men. And even actually, one of the things that all this research is showing is young women are leaving the church. So even what we've got that is so geared to young women is starting to fail too. So the evangelical church has got to find a way to be more relevant, not to the culture, but to young men who seek the truth, and young women who, are abandoning the church because there's something that they're not seeing there. And really, it might be the absence of young men. So if I always say, if you can draw in young men or men in general, you will, save a man, save a family, save a mom, save a soul, save a man, save a whole family, because that's just the way it is. That's the way we're all geared, and like I said, as much as society tries to beat it out of us, that's the human condition. And that's the human model that's baked into all of us. So boy, I could go on, and I didn't get to you. You guys have such good comments today. And we should do an hour or two on this someday if we can, because this is cutting edge right here. I'm past time. Thanks for all the comments. They're really good. I wish I could put them all up, tomorrow I'm on with Ben. I think we're back together. So I will see you then. And thanks for listening. Take care, guys.